Hey everyone, this is Rob Keens of GoldSilverPros.com. I have a very special returning guest to our program, Jim McDonald of Kootenay Silver. Jim, how are you doing today?
Great, Rob. How are you?
Very good. Good to have you on. The last time we had you on, I think, was last August at our conference, the Money
Yeah,
Mill Summit.
yeah,
Really enjoyed talking with you back then. And I know you guys have done a lot with your project since then. So wanted to have you back on so we could get an update for our viewers.
yeah. Lots happened since last August, and I mean we're busier than we've ever been, and our assets are we've got the best assets we've ever had, in my opinion. Yeah.
To set up this conversation, I wanted to have a quick chat about silver. I know the silver market's changed a lot, and we started talking about this last August, but it had popped up almost at $30 US, and it's really held in the mid 20s. It's done better, we think, than gold. And so, what do you think are the main catalysts for that? Why are people so interested in silver right now?
Well, it's following typical pattern historically. Silver always lags the gold price, and silver's viewed, historically, is kind of viewed as poor man's gold, so to speak, as a monetary asset, which it is. And so, when you look at the famous gold to silver ratio, it's got quite a bit of variability. When you look at that chart, it could be like a cardiac arrest patient. It's got a lot of volatility in it, but when you look at a median line, in the last 25 years, it's falling around 60, and the extremes go from just this past March, we hit near all-time high of around 125 on that ratio, which is way out on the extreme end. And then it'll go as low as 15. In the last bull precious metal market, it was down in the low 30s. And so you get a lot of leverage coming off of silver when the silver catches up to the gold market, and it'll shoot right past it. And so the other thing that happens with the silver market is the huge industrial demand that gold doesn't have. Like gold is primarily the monetary asset, and silver's monetary asset, but it's got this tremendous industrial demand. Over 50% of the silver is industrial demand, and there's a lot of growth happening in a number of sectors: electronics, and green energy, solar, things like that, and in medicine too, and applications. So the demand growth is really increasing, and when the monetary demand pumps in, then you've got this inelasticity in the price, and that's where you see silver shoot past gold, and the leverage to silver as a precious metal investment really take off.
Yeah. And silver's held its ground really well. I know in January we had the silver squeeze movement, Wall Street Silver get involved. And so a lot of the retail demand has been very strong, and there have been shortages. We've heard reports from Miles Franklin, SD Bullion, and some others that there are shortages. We've also heard that a lot of the unallocated accounts, Kitco Pool, Perth Mint, have had trouble fulfilling orders from their unallocated customers. So it seems like we have a little bit of a run on silver. Do you view that as being both the monetary and the industrial aspect, or one more than the other, or what's your view on that?
It's probably the monetary kicking in, and the industrial aspect is going to be really interesting going forward, because you're starting to see some of these huge companies such as Tesla, at battery manufacturers, and people who are really interested in electronics of the green energy revolution here, trying to secure supply for critical elements or critical metals, let's say. And so that's going to be another interesting aspect we really haven't seen before going forward. And silver broke out, like gold broke out its bear trend back in 2016 in our view, on a chart, and maybe it was a little bit later. But silver didn't do that, and silver really didn't do that till last August, really. And so it's really lagged behind, and thus we think it's got a long way to go.
Yeah, I do as well. The Silver Institute recently came out a couple months ago with their view on silver in 2021, and they made sort of the startling claim that they thought that silver demand could increase by about 100 120 million ounces this year. They think there's going to be over 1 billion ounces of demand for 2021. And a lot of it is driven by that industrial demand, the need for silver in solar, the need for silver in our space economy. You know, India is putting up satellites, and the US and China and Russia are all in sort of this space race. But it's also just the general everyday economy. Tesla's, as you mentioned, Elon Musk has mentioned silver in his Twitter. You know, silver is also used in iPhones and basically every piece of electronics we have. It is so ubiquitous in our tech-enabled economy that it just seems like we could not, you know, at some point in time, people are going to have to think of silver as one of these critical minerals that we just can't live without. What's your viewpoint on that? Do you think we're at that point with silver where there's this recognition that it's so important that maybe even the government start to look at it and say this could be one of our critical minerals going forward?
Well, I don't know if we're at that point or not, but it certainly is a critical mineral, as you point out. Its use in all these, especially in electronics, and whether it's in solar or electric cars or satellites or whatever it is, it's one of the best conductors in the entire world, silver. And gold's quite a good conductor too, but the price difference is huge. So silver is the go-to. And the awareness is certainly kicking in. I mean, that Wall Street squeeze on silver in February, that tremendous spike, certainly drew a lot of new awareness to silver, I think, in a completely different audience. So it's going to be interesting going forward.
Yeah, I do think it is as well. And I wanted to get into your projects. I want to have you back on the program because you guys have done a lot in the 3 years I've known you. We first met at VRIC in 2018. Yeah. And I sat down and talked with you guys, and you guys had a few really good projects. You had La Cigar and Promontorio and Lenegra. And since then, you've added more, and you've had so much activity that I'm not sure that the investment market is really completely aware of it. So I wanted to kind of highlight some of your new projects, Copalito and Columbia. Maybe you could talk a little bit about those and what you guys are doing on those for 2021.
Yeah, so when we first met in 2018, then we were negotiating on those projects, in fact. And what we liked about them was the upside and the fact that they're classic high-grade vein systems. So high grade is always the best kind of deposit to have because high grade works in any price environment. And so we acquired the rights to both those projects around that time we first met. And since then, we've done quite a bit of drilling on, particularly in Columbia, which is almost an entirely preserved high-grade vein system. By preserved, I mean there's hardly any erosion. And now we've entered our third phase of drilling this year. We've got 5,000 meter program underway that started about 5 weeks ago. And so we're going to start to see results coming out in 2 to 3 weeks time on that program. And then similarly, and by the way, we've been hitting wonderful results. One of the veins there, we've got consistent silver hits over 700 meters of strike and down to 200 meter depth on the one vein, and numerous other veins with real high grade hits. We ended last year's program with an interval of almost 5 meters of 1,100 grams per ton silver. So just a fantastic intercept on a brand new vein to the end of that program. So really excited about this year and seeing what the results come out as. And then likewise at Copalito, we drilled it for the very first time. The very first time that project was ever drilled was last year. And it's a silver plus gold vein system. And we've got these big veins exposed right at surface and never been drilled before. Some small scale artisanal mining on it. We went in there last year, drilled 40 holes, got some really good drill results in a number of the veins. They were all quite shallow. Most of the holes were 50 meters vertical or less. We're just trying to get a first look at these veins to see what they look like and see if we could pick up some good grade subsurface, and we certainly did. So we just started drilling there about 2 weeks ago, a little bit more now, closer to 3.5 weeks ago on the second phase program ever done there. It's going to be about 3,500 meters on this phase. And that'll give us probably 30 plus holes. And we're following up on some of the great grades we got last year with over kilogram silver intercepts with gold up to individual gold assays up to around 13 grams per ton. So in the case of Coppolito, we're trying to establish continuity and some size to some mineralized shoots that'll build resource. At Colombo, we see at least that one vein has got enough consistency to looks like a real good chance of building a resource there, and it needs the infill drilling to define, and then we're expanding off of other veins at the same time.
So it looks like at Colombo, you're going to do 5,000 meters drilling. And what about Coppolito for this year?
Coppolito is 3,500 meters on this current phase that we just started.
Okay. And both of those are looking like fairly, or they are looking like high-grade projects. You have two of them now. Explain what that could do for your company as you guys continue to build out this news that you have two really high-grade projects there in Mexico, which is known for its silver. Mexico is a premier silver mining district.
Yeah, top silver producing region in the world generally year after year. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I mean, these projects, high grade deposits are the best deposits to have. That's what any mining company wants to have. That's the highest profit margins will be in those high grade deposits. So if we can establish enough resource size on either one of these projects, it's the sort of thing a mining company would come in and buy out and take us out on. And our business plan with regard to that is to get these things to the stage where that happens, assuming we're lucky enough to be able to define those kind of resources, and then continue on with the remaining assets in a spin-out company and hopefully repeat.
Yeah, rinse and repeat. So you guys do a lot of exploration for silver. Do you anticipate becoming a developer, or is your model really to find the resource and find an interested company for that resource?
Well, it's to find an interesting a mining company to come in and take us out, take the asset out, take the company out, and then we spin out our other assets and continue. Mm-hmm. And that's where our expertise is. We've got a really good team on the ground there, grassroots exploration on through to discovery phase. So we're really good at that, and that's our strength. So we'll play to that.
Okay. I think getting to some of the other projects, when we met in 2018, you had Lenegra and Cigar, I think were the main ones we talked about. Lenegra, I know that you mentioned you may be getting close to doing a resource estimate, a 43-101 report on that one.
Yeah, we're working on some modeling on Lenegra. We want to get a resource out by sort of late mid-year, and just put that's discoveries on the Promontorio property. Promontorio was our original discovery, big low-grade diatreme discovery, and Lenegra is 7 kilometers away on the same property, and it forms this hill that you've pulled up there, and that's the mineral zone sticking right to the ground. So you've got this potential for real low-cost mining with that mineral sticking right at the ground like that. Mm-hmm. Grades look really good. There's some spectacular grades, in fact, interior to it. One of the discovery holes, as you see there, is 50 meters of 420 grams per ton. Now that's not going to be the average of this large breccia, but nevertheless, metallurgy looks very simple here. With a leach, you can recover 80 to 90% of the silver on initial testing. And the discovery was exciting enough to get Pan American to come in and cut a deal where they were going to take it all the way to production and leave us with 25%. They would provide all the capital for that if it got to 50 million ounces, which it didn't. So they turned it back almost 2 years ago to us. And so now, if this new silver environment, we want to get that resource number out. We think that it's got potential to be a real nice producer for a smaller miner. And so we're advancing that project at the same time that we're drilling Colombo and Coppolito. Now, there's been quite a few holes and work done there already. So this dollar-wise, it's not that big a spend, but it could have a pretty good impact.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about La Cigar. What is the potential for that project, and what are you doing there to develop that one?
Yeah, so La Cigarra, we in 2018 we kind of pulled back our efforts on La Cigarra because of the silver price, and the average grade there in a measured indicated category is like about 85 grams. So
Mhm.
2018 silver at under 16 and $15, it even got lower. It just wasn't moving the dial. And now it's a big land package in a very prolific district of Mexico in the Parel area of district. And that area has produced 800 million ounces of silver here. And the region in a broader sense is contains some huge deposits. There's still very active mining going on south of us at Santa Barbara, San Francisco de Oreo part of the district, where 500 million ounces have been produced right on trend from where we are, about 25 kilometers south of our deposit. So in other words, this is the kind of geology in district where once you get into production, you're replacing reserves for years and years and decades to come. In fact, the mining history goes back over 400 and some years here.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great geology. It's very rare to get large land packages like this in districts like that. And so we acquired this through amalgamation in North Air in 2016. And now what we've been doing this past year is, as we saw silver wanting to break 18 and then dramatically through 20, we went back in and started relogging all the core from that resource. Because what we're looking for is some geologic controls to that resource. Right now, is the way it stands, that the resource estimate relies on a grade cutoff and one major geologic boundary. We think there's other geologic boundaries there that are controlling the silver, and if that's the case, then there's potential for a significant grade bump there that would really make economics look quite interesting at this kind of silver price. So that work's been ongoing for a while, and we're encouraged by it so far. And if it turns out, it'll mean we'll have to be doing some confirmation infill drilling before the end of the year. And that would hopefully lead to a new resource estimate. And if it's a better grade, then we would be going on to a preliminary economic assessment at that point. The whole objective is, let's show this thing to be economic. 51 million ounces in measured indicated category there, another 11.5 in the inferred. So, and it's wide open for expansion and in both directions, north and south, and to depth. So so it's pretty exciting project that could really like leap to the fore if this work result is positive.
Yeah, I wanted to reiterate, this is in an area which has had past production. You said there have been a lot of ounces produced by other companies. You were really just looking for higher silver price. Now we have that. I mean, if we stayed in the 25s, would that be enough for you guys to go and develop and have that project developed, or get it to the point in which somebody could take it off your hands and actually build the mine and go mine the silver?
Well, that's where we're trying to move it right now. So we're doing this geologic modeling. If that works out, we think it'll improve the grade and therefore the economics is what our hope is. And then that's the next step. If that's the case, we do some confirmation drilling to prove that model is accurate and predictable, and then move on to a preliminary economic assessment. So those are the next steps.
And you know, the way that I look at the price of silver, I still think it's undervalued. In fact, if you're a retail investor, you're paying $7, $8 over for American Silver Eagle, for example. There are premiums to the spot price in the retail market, and we've started to see a little bit of stress in the 1,000-ounce bar market, or more of the heavy investor market. Again, some of the vents and the unallocated accounts, and there's been a lot of deliveries on COMEX on the U.S. market as well. But people taking silver off. In fact, I think since the beginning of this year, we've had about almost 40 million ounces come out of COMEX. I mean, literally taken off the depositories where it's not even, in storage at the moment. So it seems as though we've got a little bit of a run on the physical silver, which indicates that we should expect more bullish prices going forward. And so maybe we get back up to that $30 range perhaps and kind of stay there for a while. What would that do? I mean, if we if the retail end is showing $34 silver per ounce, and we're starting to see that lack of supply come into the industrial end of the market, and we got to 28 to $30 silver, what does that do for you guys? Because you have now 4 to 5 really good projects that I think you could advance them all at the same time, couldn't you, if we were sitting at 28 to $30 silver?
Well, it becomes a matter of our own financial and human resources at that stage. And but what does it do? I mean, it's got a great positive impact. We trade really well to the silver price because of our asset base. Number one. Number two, every dollar increase in the silver price improves the potential economics of anything that we're doing, and that goes. That's the fact of the matter. So $30 silver, yeah, I think we'd be looking at a very different market in general here. And it's our belief that we're going to break through that $30 silver quite aggressively. And, I think we'll see the old highs and beyond this time in the silver price.
Do you think eventually we'll get past that $49, $50 US and maybe
Yeah, I think so. We've already seen gold break into a new high, and it's not done yet.
Yeah.
And silver's still lagging. Yeah.
It is, and I agree with you. I think we're incredibly bullish for silver going forward, and I don't even think we've seen mass investment demand come into gold and silver. I mean, we've seen the retail market with Wall Street Silver. We haven't seen the pension funds. We haven't seen the big guys really flip the switch and go into the precious metals. If we ran into any kind of economic concern along the way, I do think that people would rush back in the precious metals like they did, in the 2008 timeframe. We got into trouble in the mortgage market. So, if we get in a situation like that where there's a rush into the metals, we could see much, much higher prices. Is that what you think could propel silver up to that $49 mark? Or do you think we'll just get there naturally from all this industrial demand that we have building up?
Well, I think, you'll get there naturally just from the massive amount of money that's being created and the devaluation of the purchasing power. That's really going to be a huge driver here. And it was a big part of the impetus for the gold silver market going back after the 2008 financial crisis. So, and now the amount of money that's being printed worldwide by virtually all countries is multiples of what was done the last time. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be very interesting dynamic here going forward.
So just to encapsulate what you guys have, I want to show one screenshot from your presentation, which may be the most impactful, because when you're looking at miners, you're looking at resource at the end of the day. You guys are saying as of right now, you have basically the equivalent of 144 million ounces of silver measured and indicated. And then if you do inferred, it's another 35.7. And that's before the drilling that you've got going on at your projects and the updated, PEA that you may have at La Cigarra. Just give investors an idea of the potential size of what you think that your portfolio could turn into. Because when I look at it, I look at 4 or 5 really promising projects. If you guys just keep developing, it's almost like, where does this stop? Where does your resource stop, and what could be the true potential there?
Well, when we look at a project, at Columba Copalito, for example, we're hoping to be able to find something that's 50 to 100 million ounces. And what's more important than any of that is let's make them economic. And that's why we're doing this modeling work at La Cigarra, for example. Let's turn these into mines if they are, and let's get them monetized for our shareholders. That's the objective here, and that's why we're doing this remodeling work at La Cigarra to hopefully that's all positive. We arrive at a decision for a PA and drive that process forward, and then with Columba Copalito, it's earlier stages here. The next steps will be resource estimates and then move on. You're showing here now an image of the Lenegra work, modeling work, just to give an example. This is, as we're conceptualizing these things, this is kind of how what it looks like. You build a geologic model, and you start putting some mining parameters to it for reasonable cutoffs to get to your first step of a resource estimate. And that's where we're at now with Lenegra, for example. But the whole thing is let's improve the quality of the ounces. Let's look for high quality ounces, and those give you the best probability of having economic ounces, which is the most important.
And one additional thing I want to throw in here, just because you guys are doing so much, you have this agreement with Aztec Minerals. Can you explain a little bit about that porphyry gold copper project in Sonora, Mexico, and what you guys are doing there?
Yeah, so the Cervantes project that's a result of our grassroots exploration effort that we're always conducting some amount of early stage grassroots exploration looking for brand new projects. And this is something we came up with some years ago. And it's a gold copper porphyry style of system, which means it could be used to host very, very large resources of gold and copper. Now, although we're focused on silver exploration, as we're out there exploring, we do find other things. And a number of years ago, Aztec took that on to option because these are early stage projects. We look for the risk is higher, and we look for partners to help mitigate the risk task. And so they came in and spent the required amount of money under our agreement and made their payments to us. And now we're in a 65-35% joint venture where we're 35% and they're operating. So their plans are for this year. Right now, we're doing some preliminary mapping and sampling to refine targets, and then they want to get back in there drilling sometime this fall. And there's been some pretty nice intercepts. There's two kinds of potential what we see there. One's for a modest size open pit oxide gold deposit, and the other is for this deeper gold copper porphyry, which is the thing that could be really big and attract not just the gold companies, but the big base metal companies, copper miners specifically.
Yes, and that's the way we get a lot of our copper, which is in basically an 8-year high in terms of demand as we restart the economies and as China continues to build out. And you get a lot of gold from there as well, which is a nice little byproduct metal to have when gold's trading $1,700 to $1,800 an ounce. So those porphyry projects oftentimes can be game changers for companies. I know Freeport-McMoRan likes theirs, and lots of other companies like theirs.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting project to get into. I wanted to talk a little bit more about your business model. Let's go back to that for a moment. You've got all this exploration going. We've just spent about 20 minutes talking about all of the properties that you guys are involved in, the joint ventures, the silver, the gold. What happens when you guys get to a point in which you option off one of these things? What does that mean for your shareholders? What are the benefits for people that may be investing in you now to say, hey, you guys develop a property, somebody takes you out on that one? How does that benefit your existing shareholders?
Well, if we were to get taken out, for example, in one of our projects, it'd be for a sale of either cash or stock. Mm-hmm. And that would go to the shareholders. So they're getting paid for that. And our business model is then let's sell that goes into the shareholders' pockets. Now let's take the other assets and dividend all that into to the shareholders as via shares in a new company, and keep developing, exploring, and advancing the other projects, and then do it again.
Yeah. So this is an interesting model. A lot of people will invest. They'll pick a company and specifically one project, and they'll put their eggs in that basket and say, okay, we're going to put our eggs in that basket. We're going to invest in this company, and we're going to ride along as you go. This model is a little bit different because you guys are developing multiple properties. You have multiple opportunities for investors. They can get in and stay in if they want as you guys continue to develop these and option these off. And that maybe it's kind of almost in a way like a royalty model. You have multiple opportunities to benefit from that, as compared with a miner that may just have a single mine and you're kind of in that mine as an investor.
Yeah, well, yeah, we do offer that. On the one hand, we're advancing and developing these projects like Copalito, Calamba, La Cigarra, Lenegra. Mm-hmm. And then at the same time, we've got this grassroots generative exploration going on, which is sort of like the generator model. And we have done deals in the past where they gave the ability for companies to earn 100% and leave us with the royalty, in fact. So, these early stage projects will do those type of deals as well.
Yeah.
And the objective is to make discoveries, but on the early stage, high risk stuff, bring partners in, because there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of risk to share.
Yeah. And can you just paint the picture for 2021? Just maybe do a summary of the activity you guys are going to have in 2021 for investors. I know they're going to be looking for the news. You've got some drill results coming out, a PEA. If you just recap that for us.
Yeah, so drilling, Columba and Copalito. So drilling on these high-grade projects. More to come there. And then with regards to La Cigarra, this modeling work could be a real game changer if it turns out to be positive, like we're obviously believe it will. And then with Lenegra, that initial resource, let's get that out there and see if we can generate a smaller miner to get interested and take that project on and take it into production. So that's kind of the nutshell. Then we've got some partners who are going to be doing some drilling here on the Cervantes with Aztec. And then we just cut that deal in British Columbia on the 2x Fred project with Centerra. We're planning to do up to 20 holes there this year, which is great.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here, Jim. I know we talked about potentially $30 silver this year. Do you think we're going to hit the $30 price target here in 2021?
A pretty high chance of it, I believe.
Yeah.
Driven
by, you think, a combination of industrial and investment demand.
Yeah, driven by exactly that.
Yeah.
So,
and given the potential shortages in the unallocated accounts, the pooled accounts, and things that we've been seeing, in your view, do you think that's going to be led by the retail investors, or do you think it's going to be some of the bigger guys getting into the silver market and investing in that as they see the potential build in silver, as we've seen it the first quarter of the year?
Yeah, I think it's going to be driven by the bigger guys primarily. That's what I think.
Yeah. Well, again, wonderful to have you on the program, Jim. Wanted to remind our subscribers, we have a quarterly newsletter called the Golden Quarterly. We're going to be taking an even deeper dive into Kootenay in the Golden Quarterly. Invite you guys to stop by and check that out. We're going to really go over everything that this company's been doing in the last couple of years. Of course, our existing subscribers know that we covered them in the January newsletter as well, but we're going to expand it out and really spotlight Kootenay, because we feel, we've been following this for over 3 years. We feel that Kootenay has a lot of great projects, and we feel as though the market knows about them, but not enough people know about them. And we feel like there could be more participation. Personally, I think you guys, Jim, have wonderful upside when more people learn about the potential of your projects. And as you guys continue to build that news out, I'm really looking forward to it. I think 2021 is going to be super exciting for you. And I'm happy to see it, because I've been following you guys along for 3 years, and you've done so much that I think this is going to be a really good year for you. And I appreciate you having me on the program.
Thanks, Rob. It's been a pleasure being on your program again. And yeah, we think 2021 is going to be a really exciting year too. So let's get out there and get those drill results in.
All right. So how will people contact you, Jim? If they're interested in investing in your company, how do they reach out to you?
Well, you can come to our website, the TSX.V, symbol's KTN, okay, and also the OTC, which is KOOYF. So you can find us there.
Okay. Yeah. If you're in the US and you're interested in investing, you can do 2 ways. You can go on the TSX.V if you have that through your brokerage, or you can go to the OTCs, which all US investors can get access to. Jim, thank you so much again for being on the program. We look forward to speaking to you again.
Yeah. Pleasure, Rob. Thank you very much.
All right.